let's go back to errors in notation. I'll make a few more and we can practice correcting them. Okay, here's a rhythm. It's horrible. Horribly written anyway. So let's talk about the first measure first. One really good way to correct rhythms that you might like to try is to look at the measure and see what's the smallest note value. And here I see it's a 16th note. And then make yourself a little grid of 16th notes. Now I have my 16th notes arranged in 3 groups of 4, just like they should be in 3/4 time. And I'm going to assign these things to my grid. So my first quarter note takes up those first 4 16th notes. Now this 16th note goes here, but this rest is worth 4 16th notes, right? So it needs to fill up those 3 and this one. And then this note goes here, and that rest goes there. So to notate this properly, I can leave my quarter note, and I can leave my 16th note. But now I know I need a rest that's equivalent to 3 16th notes. What would that be? A dotted 8th, followed by another rest that's a 16th rest, an 8th note, and my last 16th rest. It's not a very catchy rhythm, I'll grant you, but now at least my musician can see beat 1, 2, 3, if they're counting while they play. Here we have another measure, and the smallest note value is an 8th note. Now technically, this is sort of okay, but we could improve it. One thing we didn't talk about, which is very important, is why we even have time signatures and meters. So let's talk about that right now. There is a reason why we have time signatures and meters, and why some music is in 3 and other music is in 4, and other music is in 2. Do you have any idea why that would be? Well, it has to do with the stressed beats. In 3/4 time like this, beat 1 is the strongest, followed by beat 3, and beat 2 is the weakest. We normally count in 3/4 something like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In 4/4 time, beat 1 is the strongest, and beat 3 is strong, and beats 2 and 4 are weak. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds different, right? We always want to show the stressed beats when we're writing out music. So here we have shown beat 1, but we don't show beat 3. So if we're considering that a strong beat, we might want to show it. Our shortest note value here is just an 8th note, right? So our grid only has to be 8th notes. This one goes here, this one goes here, like so. And then if I want to show my beats, I'll leave my quarter note, and I'll have my 2 8th notes, and I'll tie that like so. And now I can see where beat 3 is, and since in 3/4 time, beat 3 is somewhat important, this is preferable to writing it out this way. Here's our last measure. Again, our shortest note value is an 8th note, so we figure out this 8th note goes here, a half note is worth 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 8th notes, and then we have another 8th note here. So to notate this properly, we should have we can see this one comes in the second half of beat 1 and is held through the beginning of beat 3, and then our 8th note comes on the offbeat. This would be much easier for someone to perform than this would. Hopefully these all actually have 4 beats in them. It's actually harder to write incorrect rhythms than it is to write correctly, but let's give it a try. Okay, our first measure has 16th notes in it, correct? So we should make our grid out of 16th notes. Okay, our first 8th note, how many 16th notes is that worth? And this quarter note is worth 4. These are 16th notes, so that should be easy enough. This 8th note is also worth 2 16th notes. What about a dotted 8th note? How many is that worth? 3, right? 2 plus the dot. Oh, it looks like I'm missing something. Okay. You didn't see that. Okay, so there we go. Now we just have to rewrite this. Do you think you know how to rewrite this rhythm? Take a moment and try to do so. If you want, you can pause the video. Okay, let's go over the answer. You should have written something like this. Did your answer look like this? We had our 2 8th notes, or our 2 16th notes here. We had our 2 16th notes here. But remember, they were part of this same quarter note, so they were tied to this 8th note over here. Then we had our 2 16th notes, and our 8th. We had our 8th, and it had to be tied to this 16th note because of the dot. Another 16th, and an 8th. This I just put in to be silly. We never tie a rest. Why don't we tie rests together? Because we don't need to hold silence, right? Silence will go on whether we hold it or not. So that was just silly. We have a couple 16th notes here, so we'll still have to make a 16th note grid. Okay, follow along with me. This one looks like we may not have to do too much rewriting. You pause the video and then come back and we'll check your answer. Hopefully your answer looks like this. We had our quarter rest, that remained the same. Our 16th rest, that remained the same. Then we took these 3 16th notes and made them into this dotted 8th. It's tied here to this 16th note. Then we had this one, and these 2 that made that 8th note, and finally our quarter note. Hopefully you got the same answer as me. Let's do the last measure. Hopefully you realize this measure doesn't have enough beats in it. When I went to do my answer, I found that my measure was an 8th note short, so I just put an 8th note on the end. Hopefully you did the same, and you came up with an answer like this. Okay. So now hopefully you have a good understanding of simple time signatures. And remember, simple time signatures are just time signatures that have beats divided into 2 parts, or divisions of 2. So 8th notes into quarter notes, or 16th notes into 8th notes into quarter notes. But they're all divided into even numbers, and that's what makes them simple time signatures.